Alright, to start this video, I want to give you a picture and a video of my neighbor's roof. That roof line is 75 feet long. All the water that comes off that roof, before I made improvements to the lot, was trapped between our two houses. And if you pan down to their foundation and pan over into their yard is superior in elevation to my yard. And it is graded toward my yard. So all the water that lands on their yard, even almost to their property line with the golf course, is all graded toward my yard and toward the depression or the low spot where I installed a drain last month or 2 months ago to alleviate the problem. Right now we're looking at the cement that surrounds the drain, and this was the low point where the puddle would always start no matter what kind of rainstorm we had. If it was a soft rain, a light rain, a 20-minute rain, a 2-hour rain, an overnight rain, the puddle started here first and grew. And it didn't grow past my neighbor's house because there's a dramatic rise in the grading at the corner of my neighbor's house. That puddle never made it past their house because there's a rise there. It grew between the two houses. It grew to the point where it was back to the air conditioning unit. And then as it grew, because my lot is so flat, it grew along the patio. And in the most severe rainstorms, at the peak of the storm when we would get 2 or 3 inches in an hour, and I've seen those kind of rains here, my patio would be surrounded by water like a moat. 4 feet and the patio would be underwater. I eliminated that with this drain. Now, that drain connects to a 4-inch pipe that runs 40 feet to the end of the property line. There's an outlet out there. So from now on, any water that comes off my neighbor's roof is going to go into that pipe and onto the golf course. One suggestion I would make to my neighbors and to the HOA to lessen the amount of water that's going to run onto the golf course through that pipe. Gutters should be installed along that whole 75 feet of roof line, dumping onto their driveway so it can run into the street. On the other side of their house, there's a trench. You've seen it in other videos. I've pointed it out in other videos. That trench causes the water to flow to the back of their yard, and then that water, in the light rainstorms, when there isn't severe flooding, that water will run along their property line and eventually drop in to where the opening is to the drain. Also, an improvement I want to make to my property is to install gutters. And I want to surround the whole patio roof with gutters. Even though the side is pitched, whenever it's raining hard and the wind is blowing, it blows water over the sides of the patio roof and down onto the soil that's just off my patio. I want to keep all water off the roofs, away from my patio. And as I sweep along 3/16 patio roof, I want to put a gutter the whole length of that patio roof. I want to do it to both of my houses. On the sides and on the front. And on the front, the peak of the gutters will be in the middle of the patio roof. And it'll run both ways. It'll run to the west, it'll run to the east, and the water I'll have a downspout that is fed to that drain. Now the improvement I've made to my house, or we talked about what I call a reveal, is what I did last week. As you can see, there's a line of cement, 1.5 to 2 inch thick cement, set into cement in a trench in the ground. And that line of cement drops uniformly from the enclosure of their air conditioning unit. As I walk along, this is what I'm talking about. The sun is shadowing it right now, but it's probably by the time we're done with this video, it will be completely sunshine. But what I've done is I've taken the dirt. First of all, I took the cement, I set it on end, into the ground, into a ditch, filled with cement, so it's not going anywhere. That was the first thing I did. And I established an elevation here. This elevation is about 7 inches higher and 30 feet. Well, it's 3 inches and 30 feet. So it's 3 inches higher than the drain right here. And 30 feet away, as I pan, it drops uniformly into the drain. The reason I did this, before I did this, because my finished floor elevation is lower than my neighbor's house. Whatever water came off their house eventually migrated over against my foundation, my pad. So, after I installed this graduated dropping line of cement block from their air conditioning enclosure to the drain, I filled it in. As you can see here, there's a shadow now. But right here under the bump out, that's what I did. Where I had space, where I had 4 inches, 3 inches of space before between the stucco and the rocks, now all along I've only got about 1/2 inch or an inch. And I've gradually dropped it from the stucco to the cement. And I'll pan both back again to the air conditioning unit and forward to the drain. This is a constant drop for that cement. I strung a string from the drain to the 3 inches above the ground at the air conditioning unit, and I followed that string with the line of cement. Then I came along later and took fill dirt and put it up to the stucco, within an inch of the stucco, all along, and dropped it to the line of cement. That way any water from now on that comes off my neighbor's roof, instead of migrating up against my foundation, will hit that cement and stop. And it still is allowed to run down to where the drain is, and it will stay off my lot. So my house and my cement pad will stay dry. That's why I did it. Now, what I plan to do after this is to put landscape fabric down over this sand, and I'm going to cover it with crushed stone. I'm also going to fill in by the cement with crushed stone. It will be disguised. Nobody will know it's there. It'll just look like it was supposed to be built that way. You will not see the cement. It'll be covered with crushed stone. But this way, the water that comes off their roof, that 75-foot of roof line, which amounts to a ton of water, lots of water when it's raining hard. And it still has a chance. I've not trapped it up against their house because there's a grade. I've just kept it off my lot, and eventually it's going to run down the cement and feed into this drain. And as you can see, it worked. We got a rainstorm the other night, that light rain. And when it was done, I came out with a camera. I'll show you a video later. But it worked. And you can see it's dry. The only dampness you see is right there at the edge. That's why I want to put up gutters. I also want to put up gutters around this bump out. As you can see, my roof line right here, the only roof line that feeds water in between my houses is the bump out and about this 4 or 5 feet there in the front. So all the water that collects between these two houses comes off this 75 feet of roof line. And not only does it come off on that side of their house, but the roof on the other side feeds a trench that's isolated from the track days drainage easement, feeds it to the back of their house where it runs down the grade from their house into my property. That is why I put this drain here. We will never, if this drain stays clean and it's allowed to work, we will never have a lake or a huge puddle here again. This drain connects to a 4-inch pipe buried underground that's 40 feet long, and there's a 10-inch drop over 40 feet to the outlet out on the property line. But as I said, if I don't put gutters, if I'm not allowed to put gutters along the front, all the water that comes off my patio roof hits there. I want that dry.